Here we go. I just watched this new TV show, Legion, knowing nothing about the character. The one thing I knew was that it was connected to the X-Men universe, which I don't know that much about. I usually have one person who I talk to about that. His name is Bob Winters, and even he didn't know that much about it. This is my thoughts. It was pretty sweet. I had heard some good buzz, but it actually was surprisingly refreshing. It didn't feel like a typical Marvel show. It felt more internal, more psychological, and the closest comparison I could make was to Twin Peaks. It was very David Lynchian. You know, I saw some people say it was Kubrickian, and I understand that comparison. For me, I don't really want to go that far, but it's definitely very labyrinthian in the sense that it's complex, maze-like. You don't know where it's going, you know. It twists when you think it's going to turn. The character, they play him off as being mentally unstable, so you don't know what's real and what isn't. Now, obviously, the big problem there is it's like, are you just watching a dream sequence the entire show? And that was my biggest fear going into it, is that I'd just be watching an extended take of one of those epic Sopranos dream scenes, which were great, but a show they do not make. I don't think you can get away with a TV show in this era where you're just completely living in fiction. People are way too tuned into tricks these days. You look at M. Night Shyamalan, everyone's waiting for the twist, and when they get it, people are just pissed. People know that they've been being told a lie the whole time, so they're not invested in the story, and when they figure it out, they figure, why the hell am I here? So I feel like modern storytelling is much more reliant on just like tight plots that interconnect in good characters. There's plenty of room for stylization, there's plenty of rooms for things to do. That being said, there was a lot of trickery in terms of what you're seeing, what's real and not. You can clearly kind of get a sense based on the narrative of what is real. It kind of flirts that fine line, and I think it does a really good job. Without spoiling anything, I think you have to see it. The characters are pretty cool. That's the one thing I don't know too much about yet. The visuals and the editing I think really sells this show. It's you know, I'm biased because I am an editor, but there's so many different moods, colors, and atmospheres and sounds that it really kind of keeps you on your toes as to what to expect next, and it's constantly evolving and constantly changing. And towards the end of the episode, there is kind of like a resolution towards like a little plot that's going through into more familiar territory for your typical comic book superhero show, whatever you will. But you can tell it's not going to be like your standard Netflix, CW, Marvel, whatever. At least at this point. For me, I enjoyed the parts of the show where the character was a little bit more isolated, and it kind of was an internal battle with this character. It's very interesting with the psychology of this character because obviously he has powers that aren't really clearly defined. You can tell they're larger than the usual set, but you mix those powers in with the sequences that may or may not be real, and it almost makes you feel like you're crazy because you're having a hard time grasping what is real and what isn't. You as the viewer there are trying to figure out what's real and what isn't, and it kind of puts you in the same mindset of the character in terms of, am I crazy? Is this happening? Did I figure this out? And I feel like that there's going to be a lot to play with over the course of the season there, and a lot of potential. Like I was saying before though, this is such a fine line because you don't want to feel like you're tricking the audience and at the end just pulling the rug out and just saying, oh, none of this ever happened, and conveniently erasing the effects of the plot. One of the biggest things that annoys me about comic books and their movies is that there doesn't seem to be a lot of consequences with things. They can write themselves out of situations, and it's a natural thing because these comic books have been around for 50, 60, 70 years, so they kind of have to figure out ways to keep things going. But what happens in the movies that I think is unfortunate is characters will die and then just come back. They'll find a convenient way to get them back, and I kind of think that that does a disservice to the weight of the moment. When someone dies, you're just like, well, I don't really care because I know they're gonna come back. But that being said, this show doesn't do any of that yet. I mean, it's the pilot. That's about it. I mean, I don't really want to get into too many details for the people that want to see it. I like to go into cold into these shows myself generally, but if you like this, if you want me to talk more in detail about something else, I watch a lot of this stuff, so let me know. We'll get it going. A lot of snow today. Get out the galoshes and, you know, throw some snowballs around.